Let's talk about the proxy. So whenever we are designing system, at that time, this proxy, uh, like intermediate between the your client and server. So different kind of proxy, and let's we understand the proxy and the situation where this proxy help us to decide to use in our system designs. So proxy as meaning, if you go the literally meaning, it's the same as in the case of our system design. Proxy is nothing just an intermediate server that's act as an intermediary between the clients and the target server. So here proxy means this is our clients and this is our server. Okay, and now clients and server are not directly communicate. Instead, they are communicate by the proxy. So might be client request go to the proxy and proxy get call request to the server, and server again responds to the proxy and proxy responds to the client. So generally clients and the server are not tightly coupled, are not directly linked to each other. Instead of that, we have a between the uh, proxy, you can say. In a real example, let's say example like you are going to purchase any product or any uh, item. So generally the item or product, let's any FMCG product you are going to the buy. So generally FMCG products are produced by maybe particular factory, particular company, right? So you as a customer are not going to directly buy to the factory. Instead, you are going to the buy from the shops or some dealer. So here shops or dealer work as a proxy, means ki, we as a customer are going to access some product. That's products are built by someone, but I'm not going to directly for the company or factory. Instead, we are outlet. We are we have some dealer, we are buying from the dealer, right? So here you can say dealer, a merchant, or you can say intermediate, a shopkeeper work as a proxy. So here proxy terms is that whatever the customer going to use any services, going to use any products, that's they are not going to directly use from the server. Instead, they are communicate via the intermediary server. So here it's that means our proxy receive the request from client and maybe modify it, maybe forward this to the target server. So here proxies are having some couple of facility and benefit. They can validate your request, they can maybe modify your request, they can directly forward a request to the server. So here proxy is also place where we can do some kind of operations on your request, right? And then again then return response to the client. Proxy can be used to maybe improve the performance, security, and other functionality of the system. We're going to talk detail what other roles of the proxy can play. So might be it's clear. Proxy is the just intermediate server between the clients and your service provider. Just look like in the real life, whatever the product you are going to the buy, maybe you are going to the buy particular any any item, you can say, let's say you're going to the buy is buy the any scooter or bike. So you're not going to buy from the manufacturing company, you are going to contract the particular dealer or shopkeeper, and then shopkeeper or dealer, you are interact, you are buy, you are everything you are doing. So here all the shopkeeper or dealer play a role like a proxy. Proxy word used in this computer systems. So these are some basic concept we should aware about the proxy. Proxy here the main uh, component is the client, which maybe client can be end user, customer, mobile application, browser, desktop, anything. They want to communicate to the server. Okay, so client are not going to directly, your client not going to directly communicate to the server. Here, the basic concept we should, there is one a client is the entity that send the request to the proxy, and between the, this is the proxy server. Proxy is also machine or device that play. So proxy is a server, that intermediate server that receive requests from client and forward to the target request, and server is the actually server that's intended to communicate to the clients. So whatever the service provided by this client, service are consumed by the consumer or client, not directly but via proxy. So in this way, proxy play an intermediate role between the clients and server. And here are the in the proxy we have also understand the request. Request is the kind of a message or information that sent from the client to the proxy server, and then those requests after modified or maybe directly forwarded to the your target server. And the response, again, response messages come from target server back to the proxy server, and which then return to the client. Here play here from the client perspective, client don't even know, they are directly communicate to the proxy and proxy response as well. The client is just aware about the proxy look like. They are talk to the proxy and then get from proxy. Even this proxy are communicate with server from where they are getting data. That's the another matter. But here there are some original server which are responsible to serve the request. From the client perspective, client directly communicate to the proxy and look like in real time dealer. We are directly communicated to dealer and buy the product, whatever. And dealer may be contacted the multiple manufacturing company to actually deliver the product to the customer. So if you talk simple architecture, very simple architecture, generally this is the one client component, this is the proxy server component, and your target server component. And sometime proxy also after proxy we can play some cache, so that we can, if the particular request come, and let's see here in this example, sometimes cache is optional, but cache can be implemented to improve the performance. This is our proxy. Hey, a client send a request, and proxy server talk to the original server. Hey server, they give the response, and this response return to the client. Again, client asks the same request. So here we can play another proxy component. So instead of they going to call to the original server, they are just going to check our cache memory. If data available, they respond. So in this way we can improve the performance. So here might be we can put one cache component, maybe local cache or remote cache or any kind of cache. This is optional, but for improving performance on a proxy you can apply some level of caching that will help us to improve the performance. This is the client component, this is the proxy server component, and original servers, and option as well as the cache components. So generally there are two kind of proxies. Okay, one known as a forward proxies and one known as a reverse proxies. So let's talk one by one, and whenever you are going to use any proxy, we have to decide or select you are going to implement forward proxies or reverse proxies. The proxy in the really always implement in the two way, maybe forward proxy or reverse proxy. So let's talk one by one. What is the forward proxies? So here what do you mean by forward proxies? The forward proxy means a proxy sit between the clients and server. It's the right, but the forward request from the client to the target. So you can say, let's assume it can be the scenario where we can think the proxy can be hide the client IP address from the target server. So here somehow I want our original server doesn't know the client IP. Okay, then they are going from here to here. So if proxy in this way, maybe bypass the forward restriction or cache the frequently access. Here, forward proxy can be cache your request or bypass forward restrictions and hide the client IP. And for example, company sent a forward proxy to allow the employee to access the internal website by hiding their internal IP. So in a particular company, particular organization, let's lots of employee, and those employee, you can say multiple kinds of employee. So they employee are going to use the internet, okay, internet and internet any website are going to access. So here, instead of our internet know each and every employee IP address, if every employee directly go to the internet, that means on the internet everyone know the your employee ID, employee private. So instead of that, internal all the customers, all the client request go to the one forward proxies, and forward proxies are received and one common IP on the maybe organization IP. Through that they are connect to the internet, and from the internet a specific server we are going to play. So here uh, play a role as a forward proxy, means every clients are not directly go to access any server on by internet. So before reaching the internet, every request go to the forward proxy. In generally, when in which organization you are working, generally as an employee, all our requests go to the company proxy server, and company decide which website we are going to allow you or which are not allow you. So in many organizations you find there are some restrictions. Hey, this website you cannot access. There are some legal, illegal websites which are not allowed to access within the company networks. So here what the company do, instead of allow every client, every employee can access the internet directly, they can allow, hey, no, every request first go to the company proxy server, and proxy server check your request. Is your request is a requesting to the valid application, valid URL, valid internet service, then company proxies allow you to route your call to the specific requested website or URL you want. So here all the almost organizations which have some kind of restrictions, employee organization level, these proxy servers are implemented. Here I ensure that our organizations are also not exposing any customer manager or any IP address directly to the internet. So from internet only know, hey, this is a particular company organization's IP address through which the particular internet or any server or any website you are going to access. So here you can say proxy server play a role for the particular specific organizations, okay, and so that only a specific website, a specific server you can access as a global, as a company employee. This is play a role as a proxy for proxies. And similarly one kind of a reverse proxy. So reverse proxy also same, sit between the servers and multiple clients and forward request to the client. Here protect the server from the external attacks. Here the just reverse. Previously we are ensuring that our employee are not going to access any kind of a intended behavior. So here reverse, our server, whatever the server I want to protect, so that no unnecessary person can anyone access my server. So distribute, these are used to distribute incoming traffic across the multiple server, and even cache the data whatever we have. Generally, all the web applications use the proxy server to distribute incoming traffic to the multiple server, improving the responsiveness and reducing the load on the customer. So here the understanding. Let's. So now again the similar kind of behavior, but notice here we have server. So here say ki now our every employee can access internet, but everyone not directly access my server. First, all requests go to my reverse proxy, and this reverse proxy decide, hey, this request go for the server 1 or server 2 or server 3. So here, just like a reverse. Previously, you are ensuring that our clients are not directly communicate to the internet, but now every client via internet can communicate first the proxy server, and then proxy server decide which designated server the request is going to forward. Here, proxy server play a multiple role. Here, the proxy server check your request and decide which server are eligible to serving the request, right? Maybe distribute the load and check the validation and again catch the response and response to the server. So here now across the universe, anyone can access my application not directly but via proxy server. So hope it's clear. What do you mean by the forward proxy and the reverse proxy? So generally nowadays all the web application, mobile application, generally we are going to use the proxy server. And inside the particular organization, particular company, particular company can ensure that all the requests go to the internet from my protected proxy. So let's understand between the both forward proxy and the reverse proxy. Very clear, there is no any confusion, but let's one again. So notice this is your forward proxies and this is your reverse proxies. In forward proxy, generally they are implemented inside your particular organization company as a local area networks. So here all our employee, in which organization we are working, always we have some local area LAN. Within the LANs, lots of employee working. But we are going to allow every employee can access internet, but not every server, every globally available resources. There are some website or URL that can allow our organization you can access, and some are restricted for access, right? So here our company, our organization implement the proxy, forward proxy. Means ki every request go to the internet. Before going to internet, they are going to the check your request is a valid and the server, the website you want to access is really allow you or not. Then they are going to request to the form. But in the case of reverse proxies, every customers are free to access internet, but my application are not directly accessed. So whatever the requests come from the internet, we are going to one as a our reverse proxy server. And reverse proxy server decide, hey, this request go to the my server A, web server, web server 2, or web server 3. So here the differences. Only the difference is the overall your internet access. So here in the forward proxies, limited requests go to the internet, and once requests go to the internet, and after that any server, anyone across the internet, any resources, any website you can access. But in the case of here, all the users who can access internet from via internet, you are going to access my server, but my server are not accessible to directly to the customer, but from the proxy decide, hey, this is the right request for the my web server. Maybe unnecessary requests come, then they are going to just revert it back. So in this way, many places the use case here, generally all the application, web application, mobile application nowadays, all the applications are generally go with the reverse proxies, and similarly generally local area, lands, organization, institution, all the local employee can access a particular specific server that will the reverse proxy. So here very famous example about your NGINX server. Okay, so let's use case where you are going to use these proxies. So might be where you want to content filtering, and a proxy can be used to block the access to the certain websites or client. So whenever one organization company decide, hey, in this my company, only these are official website you can access, maybe Google, but some kind of a website that is illegal, that cannot allow you into the particular organization networks, then the proxy you can use. Again, where you want to load balancing, proxy can be distribute incoming request to the server to improve. So let's here our web server and the clients. So if multiple requests come to the my client, our client can be going to the, our server can go to there. Instead of going to every request, let's play between the load balancer. Here our proxy play a role as a load balancer and decide, hey, which requests go, which requests not go, which request in the queue. Maybe we need to the multiple server go request. So your proxy use as a load balancer also play. Sometime you want to implement the caching. Proxy also play a good role. Proxy can cache the frequently requested resources so that reduce the unnecessary execution. And you can also apply some level of security on the proxy. Proxy you can to protect your target server from the external attacks. So on the proxy you can apply, hey, whatever the requests come before going to the server, I have to apply check your valid user, valid resource, valid target or not. Right? So these are sometime you can proxy the anonymity. Proxy can be used to hide the client IP address to the server. So here sometime you want the hide the IP of our client to the internet, or hide our customer IP to the particular server, then you can play a role of proxy. The proxy can be the content filtering, as a load balancing, as a caching, as a security. The many roles you can, or scenario where you can decide proxy you can use. And by default, we get some benefits if we are deciding to use the proxy, because we surely improve the performance, because proxy can cache frequent request resources and reduce the load on the server, and increase the security, because the proxy can protect the request before request going to the actual server, and we can filter the particular security parameters. They are provide some flexibility. Proxy can be used to the bypass firewall restriction and other hide IP something this way. And surely, if you use a proxy, your overall application going to more scalable, because the proxy can distribute incoming traffic to the multiple servers, which are improving our application performance or responsiveness. There are some challenges also with the proxy whenever you are implementing proxies. So if let's assume if your client directly communicate to the server, your request go and response as quick. But now your client request go to the first proxy, go to the proxy, and proxy call to the server, and again request and response. So you notice here only one hop, here we have one hop and two hop. So surely, if you look, be carefully individual request, then might be saying this is the performance overhead. So proxy can introduce additional latency and overhead, potentially slow down the system. And also have a security risk. Proxy can be introduced some security risks if not the properly configured. If you cannot properly configure the proxy, might be they have a problem to a security risk, and also have a limited control. Proxy may not be complete control over the target server or client, so there are some limitation of the proxy. And lots of technology. Whatever as a system design engineer, we are know the concept of a proxy, the use case, benefits, and the scenario. But how can implement them? How we can use them? How can you design the proxy? Surely we are not going to design the proxy. Just we should aware in the market already open source proxy server available. We can just very more popular NGINX server available. This is a open source web servers, and they play a role as a reverse proxy. Apache HTTP server also popular open source web server that can also use as a reverse proxies. Okay, similarly, SQL is the popular open source caching proxy server, and many places you can find a HAProxy server. most popular HAProxy server for the load balancer and the reverse proxy. HAProxy play a role as a load balancer and the proxy. So you can see lots of open source framework technology available for the proxy. You should aware, hey, for the system perspective, here I am going to use the proxy. And you don't worry how to implement proxy, how to take it already in the market, open source and cloud-based. Let's talk about cloud-based. Lots of cloud-based proxy server available for us. Okay, if you are your application decided to use the cloud-based services, you can talk about the AWS Elastic Load Balance. This is a play a reverse proxy as well as load balancer that distribute the incoming request across the multiple servers. And even Google Cloud also have a load balancing. They play a reverse proxy as well as load balancer. Similarly, Microsoft Azure have a load balancer. This also play a reverse proxy and load balancer to distribute incoming traffic. Even Cloudflare also cloud-based proxy services that provide the content delivery, CDN and security and performance optimization. Akamai also is the cloud-based proxy services that provide the content delivery, security and performance optimization for the customers. And even you can talk about the cloud-based reverse proxies as well as. So you can say reverse proxy AWS API Gateway is a reverse proxy service that provides the rest. Similarly, your Google Cloud Endpoints, Azure API Management, your IBM API Gateway. So you can say all the API Gateway nowadays in the environment of the microservice, we are using API Gateway. The API Gateway is your reverse proxy. Or if you using deciding the load balancer also play a role of a proxy. So if someone say might be you are using a different terminology, hey, in your design this is a load balancer or this is the API gateway. So you know or don't know, these play as a role of proxy because your request directly not communicate to the designated server. Client direct not talk to the server. So you know or don't know, but you are using as a proxy. If we aware, hey, here we are using a proxy, reverse proxy or forward proxy. Maybe name can be not directly API gateway or load balancer. This is the very commonly used name in the microservice environment nowadays. I'm using the load balancer, I'm using the API gateway, but these are the actually the proxies. Okay. Even if you talk about the forward proxies providers, forward proxy provider, the AWS Global Accelerator is a forward proxy services provide the traffic routing and optimization. Even talk about the Cloud CDN, Azure CDN, Cloudflare CDN. These are your forward proxies. Okay. And these are the some examples. Maybe you can all the CDNs you can see is the use the proxies. CDN also play a role of a proxy to improve our responsiveness and reduce our latency. Many places in your applications you using the CDN. The CDN also play a role of a proxy in your system. Maybe you are using load balancer. So load balancer also play a role of your proxies, which are distributed incoming requests to the multiple server and reducing your load on the individual server. Even sometimes you can web application firewall. Web application firewall also play a role of proxies, which you are a firewall. What they protect your web application from the external attacks. And sometimes we are using the VPN, virtual private networks. VPN also play a role of your proxies. So if your application somehow you talk, you using like a CDN, load balancing, load balancer, API gateway, web application firewall, VPN, all these component play a role of a proxy in your system. So directly or indirectly, we know or we don't know, but we are using proxy in our system design. So we as a system design engineer, we should know, hey, here VPN play a proxy role, API gateway play a proxy role, application firewall play a proxy role, load balancer is a proxy, CDN is a proxy. So we should know the name. So here load balancer and reverse proxies. Let's also understand. Look like a similar reverse proxy play a role as a load balancer. Sometimes a load balancer, sometimes a reverse proxy. So there is minor little bit understanding. Let's understand the concept. We have already discussed detail in the load balancer, so I'm not going to talk more detail here, but understand. Load balancer is also a device or software. What is load balancer? Load balancer is a device or a software that distribute incoming requests or application traffic across the multiple server to improve the responsiveness, reliability, and scalability of my application. Okay, and these are the main typically use of the load balancer. So if you are want to distribute your traffic means user requests, millions of requests come, surely one server cannot handle. So we have a multiple web server, multiple server. We want our requests are distributed among the multiple servers, multiple application server. Then load balancer play a good role. The load balancer distribute incoming requests across the multiple server to ensure that no single server become overrun. And even you want to improve the responsiveness, increase the availability, and scale horizontally. So these are the major criteria where you have to use the load balancer: distributing traffic, improving the performance, increase the availability of system will be available 24 multiplied by 7, and your system can scale horizontally. Then load balancer must, you can say, we can use them. Similarly, reverse proxy, as we discussed, reverse proxy is a server that sits between the clients and server and play a role as a intermediary for the request. Here, these are the typically use of your proxy. Whenever reverse proxy you can use, whenever you can hide your server IP to the client. So instead of millions of customers are maybe valid user or invalid customer trying to access my application. So all the requests go to my reverse proxy, and our server request here, and our IP going to respond, our proxy going to respond to every server. So every client may are just considering I am getting the only know the proxy IP address, not my actual web server IP address. So somewhere you want to hide your server IPs. So reverse proxy can hide the IP address of the internal server from the external client. Surely you want to implement the caching. So here reverse proxy can cache the frequent request content, reduce the load on your internal. So for caching your content, caching your response, and improving the security, where you want to proxy can provide the additional layer of security by protecting your internal server from the external attack. And maybe mask server identity. Here I want to not expose my server directly to the customer. So reverse proxy can mask the identity of internal server and making it very difficult to attacker to identify the target server. So here most probably proxy play a role of like a securing our internal, our web server, so that the attacker cannot attack them, cannot overwhelm them, cannot know the IP address, cannot know the exact identity. So reverse proxy play a role like that. Okay, so depend upon the use case, you can decide the load balancer or reverse proxy. So here we have to clear what are the purpose and the server visibility and traffic flow and caching. Then you have to decide, hey, load balancer can primarily use to distribute the traffic and scale, while the reverse proxy are used to security, caching, and server protection. Okay, load balancer can typically used to make server visible to the external client, but while reverse proxy hides the server address and its identity to the clients. Load balancer can typically forward requests directly to the internal server, while reverse proxy play intermediate role and modify the request and forwarding them to the internal server. And reverse proxy can often use to the caching capability, while load balancing is not. Right? So these are the criteria we have to think. Maybe decide, depend upon the use case, when you are going to use the load balancer. This is just my perspective. When you need to distribute the traffic, user traffics, a customer request to the multiple server to improve the responsiveness and your application should be maintain the scalability, then load balancer play a very good role. And if you want to detect server failure and redirect traffic to the another server, maybe fault tolerance, something failure handling, the load balancer play a very role. When to use reverse proxy? Again, when you need to hide your IP addresses, up server IP address and identity from the external client, you can use the proxy. And you can also need to frequently cache the request content to reduce the load on the internal server. And if you want to improve the security by protecting your internal server from the attack from the external server clients, so you have to use the proxy. But these are the load balancer and proxies, and even many places you can use the both. I want to both feature. So it is a possible in a system design you can use a both. You can say first load balancer and then a reverse proxy. This combined provides both traffic distribution and server protection. Sometimes you can say no, first our proxy server plus load balancer. This combination provides the both server protection plus the traffic distribution. So this is not the thumb rule. You can use the only load balancer or reverse proxy. Even you can use the both. So many system designs you can find your requests come to the load balancer, then API gateway, then go to the business server. So these are the depend upon your designs. You can choose. Hey, our client request go to the load balancer, and load balancer distribute log to the API gateway, and API gateway then request go to the respective server. Our second flow, whatever the clients, instead of going request to the load balancer, all the client requests can go to your API gateway, and then request go to the load balancer, and then load balancer distribute traffic to the respective server. So here load balancer and API gateway or load balancer, or you can only use the load balancer, or you can only use the API gateway. So these are different kind of permutation combinations you can play, but you have to understand the both have some designated scenario where they fit. But there is not any strict rule. Hey, you can, if you are using API gateway or reverse proxy, then you cannot use the load balancer. Or you can, if you are using the load balancer, then you cannot use the proxy server. You can use the both load balancer, or you can say also play proxy. Both are the proxy. API gateway and load balancer both are the proxy. Both are the reverse proxies, and both have a different scenario in each cases. So hope this information give you the very little idea about the proxies, hard proxy, reverse proxies, and load balancer. And might be this give you the clear idea and understanding. Directly or indirectly in your system, you are using the proxy. Proxy may be multiple forms: CDN form, caching, maybe your multiple API gateway, load balancer. These are terminologies generally our system have, but we directly or indirectly don't know or know these are all are the proxies. Okay, so hope this information is helpful for you. Thank you.